Hey, I'm Amadeus, and this is Gay in Rural France, a podcast where I talk about queer life in the countryside, mental health, and everything in between. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast, you guys, and look! I'm wearing my shirt which says queer was always here. So yeah, I hope you're all well. I thought I'd dress for the occasion. I really love that t-shirt. It's gotten a bit colder here in Charente. That's why I'm wearing a bit like a fleece over. Although we're in May already, it's crazy. But today I wanted to talk about the myth of solitude in the countryside because it just hit me. Like last week, I had one of those weeks, where it was just like, yeah, I thought I really needed a bit of solitude. So, yeah, that's why it came to my mind to talk about this topic. Like always, I have my little cards prepared so that I can guide you through this podcast. And I would say, c'est parti. So, the illusion of solitude, you guys. I think people always think that rural life is very quiet and peaceful, and depending on where you are, it can be very much the opposite. Not only is it probably not quiet around like the times where it's really beautiful outside, because that's when the farmers use the time that it's really nice outside to actually like do their work. I think it also depends on where kind of you are. Like here in Charente-Limousin, we are in a region that has mainly cows. So we don't have like a lot of field farming. Most of field farming in Europe is actually for animal food, not even for human consumption. So a lot of it is corn, weeds, things like this that you can feed to stock. Um, so yeah, we don't have lots of that. We have the occasional cornfield, which is a bit weird because like yeah, corn, corn comes from Mexico. Well, that's a whole other topic. But yeah, so it can be quite once it comes to harvesting and things like this, and also like picking up the cows, go like rotating the cows on different fields so that they're always outside, because Limousin cows are always outside, and they just are grass fed. Usually they get a bit of like extra things as well, in like a bit of corn and a bit, but more the majority nutrition is just like the grass outside. So yeah, it is often also deeply social, because people are just more connected. I think every time you go for a walk and people know you, that's the thing also. Like I think it's also very much a decision, but people know you, they'll stop you and they'll talk to you. That's what's happening to me now. It's like I can't go on a single walk without like having at least one conversation, because like yeah, people just stop you, they ask you how you are, you ask them how they are. I mean, obviously, because you also yeah, it's nice, but at the same time it can be quite like I can't withdraw. It can get you very much this feeling of like I don't even know how to withdraw anymore. But people just want to be nice. And it's sometimes I get the feeling it's a bit like a loosely structured commune, especially like if you have a lot of friends living around, like I do. I mean, my boyfriend lives here. His best friend lives with him in his house. There's another friend of ours that lives in another house, and we befriended a lot of the villagers around. So, there's always something. And in this tight knit kind of friend circle where we also all have friends visiting constantly, there's usually, I would say, there is mostly during the nicer months, there's always someone here, like someone visiting someone. So that person or these people always get included in our daily activities, whether it's like our market runs because we want to show the people the markets, or um, our shopping sprees, our brocante outings, our dinners, obviously, because we try to eat all together. I mean, it's also a thing, it's a financial thing as well. It has a financial aspect. So if we can all cook together and everybody chips in something, it's much cheaper for all of us. But yeah, it can be quite overwhelming at sometimes, and sometimes like I am physically alone, like, like during the day I'm mostly alone in this big house here in my chateau. But yeah, mostly I'm really not alone. I mean, I think sometimes it's like hard to find the mental space, to just detach a bit. um, and this just happened the last week. I think it's not only about being alone, because I think that leads us to the craving of space. And what with that mean, I mean mostly mental space. It's about having space for your own thoughts. And sometimes when you work the whole day, you do your things. I take care of the house. I do all my other work. I do lots of admin work almost daily these days. So you don't really have the space for your own thoughts, and sometimes it feels like you're just working off chores, and then you sit down and you're just like, oh god, and then there's another chore, then there's another like thing, like a leisure chore, I need to work out, I need to do this, I need to do that. Yeah. And sometimes it feels also very selfish to just be like, stop, I need this and this right now. And this is what happened to me last week when I said to Alexi, my boyfriend, I was like, you know what? I think I need Saturday night just for us, just us two. And I don't want anyone around for dinner. I just want us to be like cooking something nice, watching a movie, and going to bed. That's all I want. And we did that. And I think it is very self-regulating to realize that and to not be grumpy about it. It's like, because I felt already Friday night, it was a bit like, I am really exhausted from all the company, and that's why I'm usually I'm, and this might sound very weird to you, because I think I appear always very extroverted, but I'm actually a very introverted person. So usually in a bigger group, it's me who's like withdrawn. I have my own thoughts about things, but I don't necessarily need to tell them to everyone. So I just like listening, and sometimes but if I withdraw a lot, then I realize that something is like, yeah, I'm overstimulated. And this can also happen by the people that you love and care about, and I think being around people constantly wears out your inner voice. And that's just it. You need to give yourself some time to think, some space to just like realize things around you. And that's always the grand dilemma that I have, that I want to spend the time with people. I don't want to sacrifice like time without my boyfriend, but at the same time I know that sometimes I just need a bit of time for myself. So I'm kind of trying. I'm also just working out the balance, I think we all are. And like life is a lifelong journey of learning, right? So the unexpected social life of countryside life, you would think that living in a very rural area, and yeah, just to give you a comparison, I think inside the village center, like that's walkable, I think we're about 30 people maximum. I would say 30, 40 people. That's quite a stretch. So that's how many people are actually here. In the grand scheme of things, in all of the commune of Lesignac, which includes all the hamlets that are quite far away sometimes, and also on the other side of the lake, because we're right on a lake. I think we're 180 people. There used to be 800 people just in the village center before the Second World War. I mean, isn't it crazy? I can imagine. It must have been so lively and so loud because there was a forgery, there was like everything in the town center. So everything was going on at the very same time. It's just absolutely crazy. And yeah, but in today's village life, there's always someone popping by, someone inviting you for something, someone asking how you are. And this is nice, like I have my friends from my New Zealand friends, who are just down the road, who run the local brocante and coffee shop, or like it's not a coffee shop, it's a salon de thé. and they're really, really lovely people, and I try to visit them like once or twice a week because they're open from Fridays until Monday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I always try to go like on kind of off-peak times when I come back from the walk with the dog and things like that. Just check in and say hi and how are you, because otherwise you don't see some people you don't see otherwise. I mean, I think I also see a lot of people because I on a walk at least once a day, and I'm very much moving through all of the village. So yeah, but I think in cities that anonymity is much easier to maintain in the city. And I have been very lucky enough that I have lived in certain buildings in certain areas in cities that I have not been very anonymous. I mean, when I was working in the theater in Osnabrück, where I was in a building that was super social. We did lots of things together. We did like evenings together, and like one of my neighbors was my best friend, and I knew I could go up there with a glass of wine and be like, hello, here I am, do you have some time, just like hang out, and it was really cool. And also my last neighborhood was the same. We were exchanging, we were talking. So when I was living in Düsseldorf, that was quite cool. But I've also think we've lived in Frankfurt or in Offenbach, close to Frankfurt, and there it was much more anonymous, and we didn't really exchange with the neighbors. So yeah, I think the village rhythm is more relational and communal as well. So I think it all boils down to kind of like the thing of chosen family and family in general and the nucleus of family. Because I think lots of people in a historical context, they before industrialization, I'm sorry, lived in multi-generational homes. Most of them actually like lived in this family nucleus, and life was very structured communally. You shared chores, caregiving, food, housing. I mean, those houses, houses like mine would house like much more people than they would house today. And yeah, it was capitalism that fractured all of this. Capitalism forced people to move somewhere else, to get a job, to earn money, to be able to sustain their families and to live. And I think it all happened in favor of productivity and individualism. And I think that queer rural living that I am experiencing is more echoing this kind of older rhythm without like really like replicating it. But I think it does kind of echo this for me very personally when I talk or when I spend time with my friends here in my chosen family, which is a very big thing in queer spaces, a chosen family. And that's how I felt already like stepping into ballet world. And if you didn't know, I'm educated in a ballet manner. Ballet manner, what is that even? So I'm a fully educated ballet dancer. So I've been through all the ballet school. I left home when I was 16 to pursue ballet, which is young, but not as young as other people who left for ballet. And yeah, I think that's when you start having your chosen family, because you're all together in this thing and you all have your same passion, you all have your same goals in mind. So you kind of create this bond of family that has to go through those crises together. And I think many queer people also create those intentional chosen families, where they can actually feel safe spaces. They create safe spaces. They create hubs around them, that they know that they're welcome, that they're seen, that they don't have to necessarily hide or pretend or be something that they're not. And I think that the rural setting allows for this to happen. And I think one of my very romantic ideas is that at one point we'll all buy like a very big building, chateau, whatever. I mean, you all know that I'm obsessed with chateaus, so probably a chateau in my vision. And then you can actually share it with your friends, with your chosen family, with all these people, and like, their kids and everything. And everybody has enough space around them to actually, like, have their own little bit. But there is an option to like have a grand salon where you all meet, and another kitchen, a big chateau kitchen where you can actually like exchange, and cook together. But it's always your choice, and you're not actually forced to do that. And I think that this could be the future of rural living as well, and actually also reclaiming those spaces and using them for something rather than just letting them rot away. And yeah, then this way, homes just become this hub for creativity, warmth, and inclusivity, and I think it's like it's reclaiming that domestic spaces and domestic lives as something very tender and expansive and very welcoming. And I think I talked about this in another podcast episode, about domesticating or queering the domestic this way. Not domesticating the queer. Gosh, no, that sounds very wrong. I am sorry. But yeah, you know the gist, you know what I mean. So I think that could be, for me personally at least, could be a thing for my future that I could envision quite well. And I think also, and that's my next point, is called when connection becomes noise. That even beautiful connections can become noise if you never unplug. And I think that's mental health wise, it's really important to see that even you'll see your partner, even if you just live with your partner, it's sometimes it's healthy to just like deconnect and be like, you know, for me personally, I love that my partner and me, we have separate houses and we don't necessarily need to live in the same house, which is very luxurious. I know that, and very privileged. And it is something that I didn't even know or realize that I wanted. And somehow I ended up being really good with that idea. I know that sometimes I have to, like, I'm like all of us, I'm kind of like split in half about this. Sometimes I wish we would live together, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just like coming back to my space and knowing that it's like I can do all of these things. I can sit down here downstairs in the Grand Salon and just record a podcast, talk loudly so that you hear me nice and clear without having to like take care of somebody else. I know it sounds very selfish, but that's my personality is very much like I try to go into the background when there's someone around. I try to make their stay and their life as easy as possible, and not mine. And sometimes that's problematic, and that's what's gotten very problematic in my last marriage, is that I was withdrawing so much that there was nothing left of me. But it wasn't a thing that I was forced to do. It was something that I myself forced onto me because I thought that, where it wasn't the case at all. If I would have just said, you know what, I'm just gonna make a lot of noise or I'm gonna do whatever I want. It's not like I'm gonna. It's like not like I make a whole lot of noise during the day, but you know what I mean. It's like you try to be respectful, and I try to be respectful of my neighbors when I'm outside and things like this. I don't blast music. I don't, when they're not there. Yes, I take advantage of it. Sure, absolutely. Why should I not? I mean, then there's no one I'm disturbing. But if everybody's here, I find you always have to be very respectful of one another, and do everything to a degree that it's not harmful to others, or it doesn't like affect them in a negative way. So I think sometimes also, and that has deeply anchored in my brain, and I don't know where in my upbringing this actually like came from, but I find that a lot of times I also find myself that I combine solitude with separation, and it's not at all. I'm not separating from others. I'm more reconnecting with myself, and I have to repeat this to me a lot when I'm asking for a bit of time for myself. It doesn't happen often. I'm very I'm very cool with people, but sometimes it can just like sum up sometimes and be just like a lot. And I think it's really healthy to have boundaries, to just say like, okay, this I need to do alone. And I think creating a space for silence is also creating space for depth. And I think that's why my boyfriend and me work so well together, because we can be with one another and be very silent. Although I do love talking when I'm with someone that I really love. But I also enjoy just being silent and just being, just being in the presence of one another, which can also be quite beautiful. So yeah, it's okay to love your community, and it's also okay that you need to retreat from it. That's what I'm kind of like saying with all of this. And I think rural queer life is full of contradictions. It's quiet and noisy, it's alone and surrounded. And I think it can also be easily applied to city life. It all boils down in the end a bit to your own personality and how you want to connect with people and how you connect with people. And I think the goal isn't escape, it's more integration and holding both presence and pause. Um, and I think for anyone planning to move to the countryside, I know that my situation is different to everybody else's, and all of us will have a different story to tell. But I think that you should keep that in mind. If you want to move to a rural area, it's not necessarily the myth of the calm and the nothing. Maybe if you live like in a hamlet and your house is the only house and you're not surrounded by people, but I am like at in the village, and but this is what I love. I think this is kind of like here I get the both of best of both worlds. And I think that works very well for me because I get the city kind of life because it's a bit more lively. Although I was really craving that solitude, but I also do get that solitude, in a certain way. And I think to close all of these thoughts is that your life can be deeply social and still honor your need for quiet. And with that, I am closing this week's podcast. I hope you had fun. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing and leaving this video a like. There will be another episode next week, always on Friday mornings. And until then, all that is left to say is à bientôt et au revoir. Bisous from the southwest of France. Bye!